This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have 12 noon. Thank you very much for joining our member engagement video conference. We appreciate everyone taking the time out during this busy portion of the season. We will get moving here very shortly with our agenda as we have some very key topics to get to. Right off the top, I'd like to introduce our Vice President of Program, Sean Raphael, to kick off the meeting. Sean, over to you.
Thanks, Keegan, and thanks everybody for joining us today. Early happy Thanksgiving as well, and this weekend I know for a lot of people sort of is the next step towards gameplay this year. Even if games aren't on the ice, you're very close to planning for that to happen. So the first topic we're going to cover here today is a brief review of the points of focus for the 2020-21 season, and in particular how gameplay is going to occur in Phase 3. As many of you may know, a video was distributed along with a manual that outlines these focuses recently, and they are posted on our website. The video is on our homepage in the featured section, and then just to the right of that on that same homepage under the BC Hockey Resources, there's a written manual. The concept with this is that we want to make sure there's a good, clear communication plan for everybody involved in the game, whether that's the coaches, the players, the on-ice officials, and the parents, so everyone has an understanding of how we best keep that safe environment this year. So I'll go right into these in this presentation. So overall, as hockey returns this year, the game is facing many unknowns with the result of COVID-19, and we have an expectation with the officials that they're going to enforce the rules that are not only set out in our regular playing rules, but also here to promote the use of skill development in the game and positive experiences. The points of focus that have been identified and established for this season in this presentation support the overall return to play guidelines as established not only by Hockey Canada, but as well as via Sport and the provincial government. The 6 areas of focus are first, altercations, second, interference and protection of the goaltender, 3, face-offs, 4, spitting, 5, respect, and then 6, the overall player safety and standard of play. There are some pre-game, in-game, and post-game or end-of-period protocols that are also in place that are reviewed in the full-length video as well as the manual, but we're going to be looking primarily at these 6 focuses here. So first, with altercations, there's an understanding that player gatherings occur after the whistle commonly in our game, and we want to reduce those this year. So a couple things we want to define and have an understanding of. The expectation for this season in these circumstances is upon stoppage of play, opposing players must immediately physically distance. So although we know Phase 3 activity allows for contact, what we want to make sure we're emphasizing is that contact is necessary contact that's occurring during play. But after play, in order for us to quickly transition to the next shift and to maintain a safe environment, we want to make sure players are prepared and being coached to immediately physically distance upon a whistle. Hopefully this will help reduce, minimize, or even eliminate altercations. Should players continue any pre-stoppage contact or make intentional contact with an opponent after the whistle has gone to stop play, this will be deemed an altercation, and referees and officials in general are expected to assess appropriate penalties for any of that contact with an enhanced focus on the initiating players. So some of the directions we want to make sure the coaches and the players fully understand to be able to accomplish this goal is, first of all, emphasize that during play, physical contact is permitted as regularly prescribed in the rules. So levels that allow for body checking will be permitted. And at the other levels where body contact occurs, we have an understanding that during play that will all continue. And the regular playing rules will apply as we're used to. But there is an importance for coaches to communicate the importance of physically distancing after the whistle, which was just mentioned. That's going to be our primary focus here whenever stoppages occur. So when a stoppage does occur and there is no altercation, so that means there is no contact occurring between players and they have physically distanced from their opponents, players are expected to immediately move to one of the 2 following locations. First, they must either proceed immediately to the face-off or proceed to their player's bench for a change. This helps direct the players and give them focus on how, after they've established physical distance, they move to the next play, and we're avoiding any unnecessary contact after the whistles. Should an altercation occur, so that means contact is occurring between opposing players after the whistle is gone, all players that are not involved in that altercation or in that contact must immediately move to their player's bench. Realistically, what we've done is we've eliminated the option of the face-off, and we just want to remove all players that aren't involved in an altercation. Now, there could be an instance where an altercation occurs in front of the bench. In that more rare situation, we'll have the players move to their defending zone. The key here is we want to move all players that are not involved in an altercation to a neutral area as soon as possible. That way we don't see any altercations escalate. Should players not comply to number 4, so if we do have an altercation, again, contact is occurring between opposing players and they don't immediately move to the player's bench, all the non-participating players, the referee will respond with the following progression. So first, they'll warn the coach of the bench of the team or both teams if players from both teams don't immediately go to the bench, that any future violations in the game will result in misconducts to those players. If the altercation actually happens to be a fight, so the two players making contact after the whistle, which we hope is rare, but if a fight is actually occurring, no warning will be given to the peripheral players that don't go to the bench in this scenario, and they'll immediately get misconducts. And just for everyone's information, this isn't necessarily a new rule. Part B, 5B, this rule already exists. We're just enforcing it to the black and white of the rule. And then we're applying that concept to apply to all altercations with Part A, with the warning when an altercation is not a fight. So it's just a little bit stricter approach when players have decided not to physically distance, which is the true first expectation. A little bit of a note here, should a goal be scored, we recognize that players will celebrate that, and we want to allow for that celebration to occur briefly, granted that there's no altercation occurring. So if a goal is scored, they don't have to immediately go to the bench. The team can briefly celebrate. Obviously, the defending team should proceed right away. But if an altercation occurs, the same expectations above will apply. So the players will go to the player's bench or to center ice, which is the ensuing face-off. The other aspect of altercations, so the second part of this focus, is zero tolerance for contact after the whistle. So going on the concept of immediately physically distancing after the whistle, referees are going to be applying very strict rule enforcement for any contact that does occur. So any direct contact with an opponent's head or face, including face washes that might occur after the whistle, it is going to be assessed as an automatic double minor. So this accomplishes several things. 1, the zero tolerance for contact after the whistle, and 2, eliminating contact with the head for player safety purposes. Any accidental contact with an opponent's head after the whistle will result in a minor penalty. So there may be pushing and shoving, which would be considered contact, which a zero tolerance approach means penalties will be called. If the head is not the principal point of contact, but is still contacted at some point accidentally, the penalty option there will be a minor for head contact, again, focusing on protecting the head and eliminating contact after the whistle. All other contact after the whistle not covered above will be applied as the appropriate penalty. So again, zero tolerance essentially is the overall approach here to eliminate contact after the whistle. We also are informing referees that they must establish penalty differentials, so basically a power play when contact occurs after the whistle in order to reinforce this emphasis. So should two players, one from each team, make contact after the whistle, it's the player that initiates the contact between those two players that'll be penalized. And if the retaliation from the opposing player is too hard to ignore and a penalty must be given, that initiating player will receive the extra minor penalty, making their team short, with the concept that power plays will deter any future altercations. Also of note, officials are part of phase 3, but they are considered phase 2 participants, and officials are going to be required to maintain physical distance at all times during a game. To that end, they're not going to be physically intervening in altercations. So the cooperation from players and following these guidelines is going to be very important. However, we do have a protocol that is outlined here that if under dire circumstances, a player maybe is unwillingly involved, clearly vulnerable, or susceptible to serious injury and unable to defend themselves during an altercation, we would expect linespeople to intervene there, they will be required to put on their mask or face covering, which we'll mention a couple of times in this presentation. And after the altercation, they'll be required to wash their hands or sanitize themselves or any piece of equipment that may have come in contact with the players. We're also emphasizing that referees should be considering deliberate attempt to injure match penalties in such a dire situation. So again, we're not expecting officials this season to physically intervene in any altercations, but we do have a protocol in place should there be a high degree of risk or concern for somebody's player safety. That covers the altercations, focus 1, which is the most robust focus. The rest of them here are a little bit more straightforward. Protection of the goaltenders. With this, what we're trying to do here is make sure that the goaltenders have a safe environment on the ice, and we've taken our existing goaltender interference rules and enhanced it with one addition. That addition is the crease violation rule, and some of you may be familiar with this as it's used at or has been used in the past at IIHF categories. Basically, should an attacking player stand in the goal crease, the referee is expected to stop play. That is unless the defending team has possession of the puck, and the ensuing face-off will go to the neutral zone. So any attacking player stops, stands in the crease, maybe light contact or a quick breeze through the crease will be at the referee's discretion, but any attacking player that sets up in the crease will result in a stoppage. Again, unless the defending player has the puck, will allow that defending team to attempt a breakout. Should an attacking player enter the goal crease due to contact by a defender, the attacking player will be provided a reasonable opportunity to vacate the crease at the referee's discretion. And then should the player not vacate the crease upon that reasonable opportunity, number 1 will apply and we'll have a stoppage in the neutral zone. Neither of these two are penalties, they're simply stoppages, and the attacking team loses territory of the attacking zone. Number 3 here, should an attacking player enter the goal crease on their own accord after the whistle is blown, the referee will warn the coach once that subsequent violations will result in a minor penalty. That would be an unsportsmanlike penalty. And in the case of the warning is being assessed because it's the first occurrence in the game, the face-off will take place in the neutral zone. So this is specific to after the whistle. So the whistle is gone, an attacking player is outside the crease and they choose to then enter the crease, knowing that the net area is an area where altercations are often occurring. We don't want that to happen. So a single warning to the team that that's not allowed, and then any further occurrences of that in the game will end up being a minor penalty. No goal will be allowed in any of the above situations. So when an attacking player has entered the crease, if they are in the crease while the puck enters the net, there will be no goal. There is one exception which is outlined already in the playing rules, and that is if the puck happens to enter the crease during normal play and no attacker is already in the crease, we will allow attacking player to briefly enter the crease or make contact with the crease in order to try and score a goal. And if the goal is scored, then that would be allowed. And if the puck ends up leaving the crease, then the attacking player will be expected to leave the crease as well. Again, all of this focuses around protection of the goaltender and keeping the crease area as physically distanced as possible. Focus 3, face-off procedures. So what we want to emphasize here to coincide with the players having to physically distance as soon as a whistle goes and then go to either the face-off location or the bench, the officials must immediately identify a face-off location upon a stoppage. So an official's first point of communication after they blow their whistle is going to be indicating where that face-off is, so we can give the players the appropriate direction to make the right decision and have them focus on where to go. Should a goaltender freeze the puck, the goaltender will be expected to place the puck on the ice just outside the goal crease. This allows for 2 meters distance between them and the official and keeps everybody at safe proximity. So this is a bit of a habit that normally a goaltender may freeze the puck and hand it right directly to an official. We just need our goaltenders to be prepared for a bit of a new procedure here that once the whistle goes, they can retrieve the puck from their equipment and just place it outside the crease on the ice. And then the official will come and pick it up. So there's no direct contact between those people. Similar principle with the goal is scored. A goaltender could temporarily leave the crease to allow the official to go into the net and retrieve the puck, or the goaltender can retrieve the puck out of the net themselves, and if they do so, number 2 would basically apply, and we just expect the goaltender to place the puck outside the crease so the official can retrieve it. So again, just two points of habit maybe from the past where we've got a slightly different protocol. Lines people for dropping the puck on a face-off. First and foremost, again, officials have to maintain 2 meters distance at all times during the game. To that end, during a face-off, we know that they will actually be in proximity of less than 2 meters when they're dropping the puck. We know that there is not necessarily a need to actually physically contact the players, but because they're in this proximity, officials will be required to put on their face covering over their nose and mouth during the face-off to keep everybody safe. And to that end, officials will start their face-off by setting up a little bit off the dot so they can put their mask on. When the line change procedure ends, which is the referee dropping their arm, the referee will blow the whistle and indicate to the linesperson that it's time to start the face-off, and that is when the linesperson will put on their mask and then approach the dot. Once the whistle goes, this is not much different than what players are used to now, but it's just to reinforce the expectations of the players, is that when the whistle goes to start the face-off, the center should arrive in a stationary position for the face-off so we can have a nice clean face-off occur. Focus number 4 is spitting. So spitting is a rule that already exists. It's rule 9.7, and essentially it's a match penalty for deliberate attempt to injure, and it has been this way for a number of years, and because the act of spitting can increase exposure to potential virus. So the spitting rule is going to apply as it always has been, but it's just a reminder here of it for everybody that it exists. However, there are situations where out of habit, again, players maybe spit on the ice or spit water out of a water bottle, and we want to make sure we're avoiding that occurring at all times so we're not potentially spreading any virus. So to that end, if an official sees a player spit or spit water onto the ice in a manner that is not covered by the match penalty under Rule 9.7, the official will be required to notify the head coach that this has happened at the next stoppage, and we're looking for the coach to advise and address the entire team immediately that they should refrain from spitting or spitting water. That will be considered a warning, but there is no penalty on this situation. If a team is notified a second time within the same game, a second warning will be applied in the same manner as the first. And during that warning, it'll be reinforced that any third occurrence would be penalized with a progression that we'll cover momentarily. The concept here is not to try and find ways to penalize people. We understand that there's going to be a learning curve, and this is a retraining of a bit of a habit players have. So we want to make sure there's good collaboration and rapport between the officials and coaches. Our officials are not going out to look for this, and we're not expecting teams to try and police themselves on this. If an official happens to see this occur, this is the protocol we want to have in place. Obviously, all throughout a game and even in practice environments, we're expecting coaches to continually reinforce good hygiene and have players avoid spitting. Again, if it does happen in a game though, and an official observes it, occurrence 1 and 2 will be considered warnings, and the second warning will outline Part B, which is that a third occurrence will result in a minor penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct to the player that was witnessed as spitting. Then any further occurrence, so fourth or subsequent within the same game, will result in a misconduct, and the officials will report that just for tracking purposes. So again, match penalty always existed. We have the protocols there, and this is how we deal with just trying to change the behavior within a game. Focus 5 is respect. Focus 5, overall, under this landscape of COVID-19, Hockey Canada's primary objective is to provide the safe playing environment for all participants during this season. So that's why these protocols are in place. It's imperative that all participants respect the rules of the game that already exist, as well as any of the focuses that are being adopted by Hockey Canada and BC Hockey for the purpose of creating the safe environment and adhering to government guidelines, which is what all of this presentation outlines. Officials are directed to utilize appropriate rules and penalties that may be required to address any issues of disrespect that may occur during the course of a game, as they normally would under Rule 9.2, which is unsportsmanlike conduct. Again, we're trying to take a more collaborative and rapport-based approach than ever before. It's going to be a joint effort from all players, coaches, and officials to make sure that we're entering the season in as safe an environment as possible so we can continue to play the game all year long. Focus number 6, player safety and standard of play. Above and beyond the focuses that are outlined in this presentation, officials are expected to maintain previously established standards of play and rule enforcement, particularly in the following areas. Head contact is going to remain a top priority for player safety. Checking from behind, again, for player safety purposes, will remain at the same standard as we've come to expect. Restraining fouls, in order to promote speed and skill in the game, that standard will remain the same as well. Stick infractions, again, for player safety and hopefully to reduce any escalating altercations. The same stick infraction that's been established will continue. And then overall harassment of officials. We're looking again to work together, but officials will use the same standard that they have for penalizing any disrespect towards them for the job that they're doing on the ice or having to enforce any of these new guidelines. So ultimately, that's the sort of more brief review of these points of focus. They are, again, on our website and both video form. And we do expect, similar to what we do with sportsmanship starts in the stands and other orientations at the beginning of the year, that every player, coach, and beneficial to even have every parent view this information before the first games this season, just so everybody is prepared and is receiving the same message. All the officials are receiving this content in an extended format during their clinic presentations in order to be prepared for the season. So that sort of actually serves as a bit of a segue here. Unfortunately, you're going to be stuck with me for a couple more minutes, but into certifications and training for this season. Myself, and then I will pass it along to Dave Cunning next. We're going to cover where we're at in our strategy and approach to certification for officials and coaches this year. So I'm just going to switch briefly to a new presentation and outline the officiating program. All right, so the officiating program for this year, we've just started our certification, and the approach this season is going to be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. So we are going to continue to engage through our social media, Instagram, Twitter accounts, keeping people updated in a less formal way there, but direct communication to MHA presidents, RICs, and officials will continue to occur. We're looking to continue with engagement through this season through online resources on the website, as well as interactive components, webinars, and such as the season is underway. And we've renewed our partnership with the Western Hockey League and the other Western Hockey Canada branches, and we will be seeing about 9 new officiating specific episodes on development and some additional episodes on training and supervision for officials. So we'll expect to see those this season as well. The overall officiating requirements for this season are as follows. Step 1, all new officials will still be required to take the online officiating course, which is open and available through our website, and that must be completed before they progress to certification clinics. Step 2, of note, all 18-year-old or older officials as of December 31st of 2020 will be required to have a criminal record check, and that needs to be on their Hockey Canada profile before they can sign up and register for their clinic. Notices went out in early July, late July, directly to officials, a reminder in September, and then notices in August to the minor hockey associations for this. So most people should be aware of their status. All of the details here are also on our officiating website. Step 3, the Planning a Safe Return to Hockey online course. That 20-minute course that Hockey Canada has provided free of charge is required for all officials, and that must be completed in advance of them registering for their clinic as well. And the final step is going to certification. And the primary source of certification this year will be online, although we will look at some in-person options as well. So in October, where we are today, returning officials level 1 to level 3, our minor hockey core group of officials are attending online Zoom clinics. So all clinics for returning level 1 to level 3 officials are set up to be delivered in an online manner. They're a 2.5-hour curriculum. It'll cover new rules, so not just what we covered here, but new rules to the Hockey Canada playing rules as updated in the 2-year cycle. the points of focus that we covered with some enhanced guidelines and procedures, time penalties, rule emphasis, procedures, and communication, all the key points to make sure everybody's prepared for the season. Thus far to date, we have a clinic tomorrow actually, but we've had 1,200 officials either register or complete certification up to and including tomorrow's clinic. And we have 22 total clinics in this online capacity available for level 2s and 3s, and 22 online clinics available for level 1s. Each of them do have a cap per sitting, and you'll see the dates here. We've, as you can see, we've done quite a few already, but we still have a number. We have 3 options available still tomorrow that can be registered for up until midnight tonight, and then 2 next week during the week. So we are offering some evening opportunities, and then a number of continued weekend deliveries. So we still have well over 3,000 virtual seats available for our returning officials to the end of October. Through November and December, this is where we're going to be looking at certifying our first-year officials. So right now, the priority for associations that are recruiting officials should be getting anybody that's interested in starting to officiate this year through the online course. The model here is going to be an in-person delivery, and that this clinic will be delivered by the local referee in chief or somebody senior within the officiating program at the local level. This curriculum is 4.5 hours, so there's about 1.5 hours to 2 hours extra material from what is being delivered to returning officials. This material is all pre-recorded, so rather than the referee in chief actually leading the material through a static presentation, there will be a number of different modules pre-recorded with instructors that are delivering our material this year online, where they deliver it via video, and there's an ability for the referee in chief to interact with the students as they get the material delivered to them. We will still cover the new rules and the points of focus with the new officials. They'll also get some of the basics on dealing with time penalties, procedures, communication. They'll get a standard expectation for enforcing rules with physical fouls, stick fouls, and restraining fouls, and they'll learn about cross-ice delivery as well as the 2 and 3 official system. We do encourage delivering an on-ice session with your local referee in chief if you have the ice availability, but this will not be a mandatory component this season for new officials, as we understand that ice may be at a premium in some communities. The returning officials that cannot attend an online clinic, we do understand not everybody can go online. Internet access can be a challenge at times. So for anybody that can't use the online model for returning officials, we will look at running some district-based in-person clinics in small groups through November and December. So we do highly encourage all associations to direct their returning officials to our many options for online clinics through October, because they're available in abundance. But there will be a sort of a last chance opportunity through November and December with some very limited in-person clinics at the district level. These will continue to be 2.5 hour curriculum, and it'll be pre-recorded modules in a similar manner to the first year officials, but more at the developmental level of a returning official, and it'll have the same content as what's being delivered online. The final group here, November to December, we are going to launch a bit of a pilot training program for cross-ice officials, understanding that this year may be hard to recruit new officials and fully invest in full certification. We want to provide local associations with a good option for some of those 12 or 13-year-old officials that are again unsure how much officiating they'll get to do this year under this environment. So to that end, we'll be asking these officials to complete the online course, the returning planning a safe return to hockey course as well, and we'll have a module-based curriculum set up for in-person delivery by a local referee in chief of about 1.5 hour curriculum. That'll just cover basic rules, positioning, and how to officiate in the cross-ice system with a brief introduction to 2 official and 3 official system. This is going to be at a much lower registration cost for these officials, and it'll prepare them for cross-ice activity. If this route is the route that works best for some recruits, they'll be restricted to just cross-ice officiating for this season, and they can pick up their full level 1 certification next season or in a future season to continue on in the program. So ultimately, that's a review of where we are with the clinics. We are expecting late next week to be able to reach out to all the MHAs and the refereeing chiefs to let them know that we are open for requests for in-person clinics for those first-year officials and continue planning there. I'm going to pass it along to Dave now so he can cover coaching. I think you're on mute, Dave.
Rookie mistake. Thanks so much, Sean, there for all that great information. As a coach myself, going to have to have some talking to my players on a number of those items. But let's forge ahead here with coaching clinics update for today. We went through a process of trying to figure out how to do these online through the month of August. Prior had an update prior. But what we've decided as our group is to go through the Zoom platform, and the month of August was basically set aside for our facilitators to go through a training process that Hockey Canada put us through to figure out how to do that. So that's the kind of the basis of it. So we're going to end up having each online session can accommodate up to 100 users. So that's 97 delegates plus 2 to 3 facilitators per session. To date, right now, we've got 26 clinics that are listed and theoretically room for over 2,500 coach delegates. So right now, if you're on the eHockey website, there are clinics up for Coach 1, Coach 2, and Development 1, Part 1, and those are all available at eHockey.hockeycanada.ca. You can see our delivery team there. Good representation across our whole province of facilitators who will be doing that. So that's important. And what's neat about this year is that really the online ones, you can take it from anywhere. So if you're from Whitehorse, you can take Coach 1 anywhere with a Vancouver Island facilitator. If you're from the Kootenays, you can take a course with a Prince George facilitator, and so on and so forth. So not limited anymore. That untethers us, the online world does, to have people from all over the place, and really frees up things like schedules and whatever. So not a lot of excuse anymore, which is good. So getting specifically into Coach 1 here. So this is for coaches, head and assistant coaches at U7 and U9. The training process these guys and girls are going to have to go through consists of some prerequisites for clinics. Hockey University's online, Coach 1, Coach 2 first. The Hockey University Planning a Safe Return to Hockey and Respect in Sport. Once those are free, you can sign up for a clinic and get into one. It's going to be virtually delivered, like I said, in approximately 3 to 5 hours of your time. And we're doing away with the typically required on-ice component this year for COVID-related restrictions. Right now, as we speak, 8 clinics are on the board. Those will occur between October and November. And right now, over 700 spots available there. So I get this quite often, and it bears repeating. Coaches who take Coach 1 and Coach 2, their status once they do it is at trained, and it stays that way indefinitely. Those two never get to certified. So people, and fair enough, ask about when is my certification going to change to certified? It won't, and in fact, you'll stay at trained indefinitely, like I said, and that qualification follows you around. It doesn't need to be renewed at any point. Moving on to Coach 2, very similar here. So head and assistant coaches, this time though at U11, U13 rec, U15 rec, and U18 rec. Their training process is going to include basically the same prerequisites, but adding the Hockey University online checking. We're not doing checking in person this year. It's going to be purely online. So that's the addition to the prerequisites for Coach 2. Same sort of attack here. Attend the virtually delivered clinic. It's about 3.5 hours of your time, any weekend of your choosing. But we'll maintain the same Coach 2 verification form. It consists of 4 separate tasks that your home MHA will have to sign off that you've completed by the end of the season. That goes through the MHA and comes back to me to verify. We're also doing away with the on-ice component here. That's typically in this course. And we've got checking in there because usually this would be part of that on-ice component, obviously not happening this year. So that's where that is. And that's partially why we're not having the on-ice component. As we speak, availability here. We got 12 clinics on the board here for Coach 2 between October and November, with over 1,100 virtual seats available. So lots of room for this one, and this is typically and traditionally a very popular course. And same sort of thing here, Coach 2 statuses will continue to stay trained indefinitely and not ascending to the certified level. Development 1, another important one and common one. So for head coaches here that are the U13 competitive, U15 competitive, U18 competitive, juvenile or junior B, in addition, assistant coaches that are wanting or wishing to coach, and a couple more here, U13 competitive, U15 competitive, U15 AAA, U18 competitive, U18 AAA, female AAA, a couple of the CSHL levels there, juvenile and junior B, junior A. So a lot of spread there for assistant coaches for development 1. Their training process is going to consist of, again, and you're going to see this every time, the planning safe return to hockey, respect and sport. Once you get through those items there, now this is where we're going to have the differentiation here. The clinical requirements here, you're going to attend the virtually delivered development 1 clinic. This is the day 1 that I believe I alluded to earlier. Consists of 2 of the main modules here, module 2 and module 5. And then once we get through that, then we'll have to have you get to an in-person delivered one. So the first one, as I said, universal to where you choose to take it from October to November. But this one is going to be regionally based, and we encourage you to do one that's closest to home, but we'll need you to get to one in person. These are ones that we're still planning and getting out there, but these are going to be subject to all sorts of things like how many people are allowed to have in the building, what are those buildings restrictions for occupancy and things like that. So as it stands right now, part 1, 6 clinics are available right now from October to November with over 500 seats available. Part 2 is going to run kind of the latter half. There'll be a little bit of crossover in November, but basically from November through December. And as I said, we're still figuring that portion out, but it is in the works in the background. So for certification for Dev 1, a lot of people are kind of in process, we'll say, for Dev 1. But if you want to get the certified status for Development 1, you're going to have to not only attend these clinics, but pass your post-clinic task or your written assignment, pass your field evaluation, and this one always comes up, pass the MED online evaluation. Without those items, your certification at Dev 1 will not ascend to certified. High Performance 1, this has been a tricky one for us, unfortunately, having to cancel the seminar this year outright. So we're going through basically a deferral process for coaches who need HP1 this year. So that consists of head coaches at U15 AAA, U18 AAA, female AAA, the CSHL, and the BCHL. Normally those levels would need that. For this year, however, if you have a coach that a team is trying to register and doesn't have that, as per our policy generally dictates, the process for them for kind of a deferral grant would be, first of all, you got to submit a request. So you can send that to me at dcunning@bchockey.net, even coaching at BC Hockey as well, or clinics. So we got to get an official request from you. If we accept that request, you're going to have 6 components that you would really like you to finish first. So planning a safe return, the checking module, respect and sport. We've put through a batch of this already. There's a specific Hockey Canada Network app training module that we've put on for these coaches in particular. This is something you would get actually within Dev 1 or a Coach 2, Coach 1 clinic, but this is a separate one that we've had these guys go through. Also your concussion awareness training tool and criminal record check. Those 6 things have to be in place prior to having your request granted, as it were. And then once we do that, we'll get you to finish the Make Ethical Decisions online evaluation, leading drug-free sport, and conflict management. All 3 of those are found in the locker at the locker.coach.ca. And in addition to that, once we get those things, we got to make sure you're actually getting to the seminar that these are all a part of to get the training that is proper and appropriate for these levels of play. So the next available HP1 that comes up, we got to have you there. And we can't grant any of these deferrals until the process that I've outlined above has been completed. So again, just to reiterate here, same sort of thing here for Dev 1 as it is here in HP 1. If you want to get certified, a lot of guys are still kind of in that train status, but if you want to get certified at this level, like I said, attend the next clinic, pass the post-clinic task or the written assignment, and also the field evaluation. Those 3 multi-sport modules I mentioned, make ethical decisions, leading drug-free sport, and conflict management, are part of that certification anyway. So if you've done them before, they would contribute to your certification when you did finish it. Our additional clinics here, checking, as I kind of alluded to a few times already, but for head coaches who need those levels there, I won't read them this time, you are going to have to either take the online clinic, just go in and do it, or there are clinics like I've already outlined that have it built in there, so you can kind of do either way. Either way, if you are coaching at those levels as a head coach, you're going to need that checking component. Instructional stream, as I mentioned prior in the last update, still no plan to move ahead with these. We have some ideas potentially, but officially in an official capacity right now, none of those clinics will be running. We are coaches, however, as I mentioned before, we're still in the process of developing this. We've had some really great coaches graduate through Hockey Canada's Women's Master Coach Developer Program. We have 3 or 4 that are either completed or almost done. And we're looking forward to having those coaches speak to our female delegates in particular to put on these clinics. So do look out for those. Those will be coming. Additional notes here, just for roster eligibility for all levels of play. If your status is ineligible for any reason or pending anything like that, it's likely due to something like this. So you're going to need to make sure you get your criminal record check done. If it's expired, have it updated. Concussion awareness training tools got to be on there. Planning safe return, repeating that over and over, but every coach at every level's got to do it, so we can't forget about it. And then the respect and sport activity leader. So that's basically the rundown for coaching clinics right now. We're excited that we have them back on the board. And I know a lot of people have been asking a long time for them, so they're there for you. And we're all over our social media as well. We've got a Twitter page. We've got this. We've been promoting them on Instagram and everywhere else. So. And I think a lot of you have received the emails about them too. So everything's out there for you. We're excited to get coaching clinic season underway. And our first clinic is this weekend, just like refereeing is already underway. So we're looking forward to our first one on Saturday. That's all on my end. And I'll pass it back to Keegan.
All right, thanks very much, Dave. Appreciate that. Thank you all for joining us today. We're at about 45 minutes, so close to our time limit. And as Dave mentioned before, feel free to reach out to those email addresses he listed. His personal one, dcunning@bchockey.net, or preferably coaching@bchockey.net. As well, if you need anything else on any other materials, info@bchockey.net, or call our office 250-652-2978. Again, thank you very much for everyone for attending today, and we hope you all have a great start to the season and have a happy Thanksgiving. Take care.